My name's Michael Terner. I work for Hexagon, which is a large money-making organization. And my company does use open source to further some of its business goals while also using other proprietary technologies. So there's the question. And the answer is pretty easy. Of course not. It takes resources to drive an ecosystem, to create software, to get people together. So let's just go through what free and open software characteristics are out there. What makes a FOSS4G project? Software is created and maintained by a group of people, not necessarily a company, but a group of people. There's typically an executive editor who manages who can contribute and commit to open source projects. And very importantly, source code is freely available, so you can look at it, you can use it, and you can change it. Another characteristic is that open source isn't the Wild West. There are a variety of open source licenses that dictate how you can do certain things and what people can and can't do while being able to look at the software in that transparent way. And then finally, software is generally, and this is very attractive, free of license charges. Doesn't mean that it's free, but you don't have to pay money to look at the open source software or its code. So this word free was highlighted a couple of times, and it's important to know that there's sort of two types of freedom. There's free speech, and then there's free stuff. So there's these memes you see with open source, free speech, not free beer, or think free puppies, not free beer. So I have a puppy, and I got it for free, but for the long haul, there's a lot of money you have to put into it, like food and equipment and toys and veterinary care. You've seen my dog, who's 14 now. She gets more veterinary care than she used to have. But the same is true for things like software. You need hardware or cloud to run your software. You need time, sometimes support, to learn about the software and how to use it to get training. And then if you're trying to do something more significant, you might need some consulting. People who are already expert at open source can give you a fast track to doing more. And what's happened over the last couple of decades is open source has become big business. It's not just a little side shoot, it's a growing ecosystem. This was 5 years ago, time flies, but IBM bought Red Hat for $34 billion and has integrated it into their overall company. Another indicator of open source is the organizations that invest in a conference like FOSS4G. And there are large companies and small companies, and there's really a win-win. The FOSS4G ecosystem needs money to rent a conference hall, to bring people together and get keynote speakers or whatever the case may be. But it's also a room full of 500 people who are interested and want to learn more, and they have the opportunity to show their brand to everyone out there and validate that they provide resources to the ecosystem. And you can see there's very large companies that make these investments. Just in the North American one, we've got AWS, Trimble, Cesium, my company Hexagon, et cetera, et cetera. And then in other FOSS4G conferences, IBM, here, Esri, Meta, Microsoft have all sponsored multiple events of this nature. It's also interesting to just see where open source pops up in sort of different places. Both of these were unexpected events. I was at an Esri presentation by Jack Dangerman, and in one of his key slides, he shows his ecosystem, and there's a big I guess it's hexagon, shouldn't miss that one, called open source. So why is Jack talking about open source in one of the events he's talking about? I went to General Electric, and again, on one of the third or fourth slides, it's like enhancing open source technology, embracing open source technologies. So why are these big companies going out of their way to talk about open source? Well, because there's more people than ever who are interested in it, and these companies want to demonstrate that they understand the importance of it and that they have some knowledge about it. And in fact, Esri's here in FOSS4G. We have an open community. Everyone is welcome. Esri has open source projects for things that supplement some of their commercial technology. And ultimately, from my point of view, it's really important. We want to have compatibility, interoperability between commercial and open source. It's not a if or then. Lots of people use both open source technology as well as commercial technology. So how do we get down to the business? What is the business model for making money? And I've chosen three options, three alternatives, whatever. The Red Hat model is one of the easier ones to understand. People get software without charge, but they pay for service and support. They get active consulting to help people adopt and deploy more complicated infrastructures. And also, if something's missing from an open source project, you can hire a company who can commit to that project, and they can add new features. And then, of course, ongoing implementation assistance. If something goes wrong, you can make adaptations. And there's different kinds of companies that follow this model. It's not just Red Hat. Red Hat does it for Linux, but one of our sponsors, Crunchy Data does it for Postgres. And then there's small scale Red Hat model. Randy Hale, many of you know, I was just at his talk earlier, owns and runs a small company out of Chattanooga called North River Geographics. And what does he do? What a surprise. He supports open source geotechnology, helps people become successful with it. He provides training for new tools like QGIS, and he provides value-added service and support when something goes wrong to fix it, or if they need something new to help them implement it. And the power of open source is if you have help to do it, you can navigate new technologies that you weren't familiar with. So this county, Henry County, didn't used to use Esri, and they're worried about the cost. And Randy was able to propose a different stack: Linux, QGIS, Postgres, GeoServer, et cetera. And then that county didn't have to pay the licensing fees, which were over $30,000. But it wasn't free. They're not paying license fees, but Randy spent his time working with them and has an ongoing $6,000 per year support contract to help keep them going, upgrade the software, fix problems, and troubleshoot. The second way people make money is using FOSS4G technology as part of a bigger solution. It's not like this or that. You're creating a new solution, and some of the components, some of the parts of the solution are open source, and those open source pieces can work very nicely with proprietary technology. GeoCat is a European-based company that has software as a service for different kinds of geospatial services, and they use a variety of open source technologies under the hood that are powered by FOSS, but also accompanied by lots of their own proprietary technology and efforts. And then the last one's a little trickier. there's a notion of just open sourcing your technology. So you build something, make it open source. When you start, you might not have anyone else but yourself doing it, but you're putting it out there so people can see it. And then if people like it, maybe they want to adopt it, or maybe they even want to help you make it better. Sometimes you just do it for passion and you created something cool, so you want to share it with people. Other times you're trying to do it to make money, explicitly, monetization. And then there's this thing called the freemium model, and it's worth reading from an article I had in a tech magazine. Their approach is usually to develop features they include in a basic free product with the goal of attracting enough users that some would start to pay for advanced features. And you see that a lot with phone apps. There's the free version, and then they keep saying, well, do you need this? Do you need that? And at some point you're like, oh, I actually do want that, and you start paying your $5 per month or whatever the app fee is. And this is kind of the tricky part. MongoDB came out as an open source project, and they started with the freemium model. This company is now, as of this week, worth almost $25 billion. And so the question is, how open are they? It was an open source project at one point, but the company controlled all of the committers. And there's kind of been a feud that's spilled over after several years where AWS took MongoDB and created services using Mongo, and Mongo did not like that. What Mongo says is, we don't think it's reasonable that a cloud vendor takes a free version to monetize it and not give anything back. Well, Amazon fairly says, we tried to contribute and give you something back, but you wouldn't let us commit to it. And in the end, the CEO admitted, honestly, that we open sourced as a freemium strategy to drive adoption. And it really is commercial proprietary technology that they control. So is it really open? Just shows that there's a lot of different nuances in how open source plays out. And as the dollars get higher, it's harder to keep it purer and open. So in summary, the three types of business models are providing value-added services and support to existing open source projects, leveraging and incorporating open source ingredients to deliver different kinds of products and sauce. It's one of the ingredients in the meal. And then open sourcing your commercial technology. From my point of view, watching how this has played out, I really think the future is going to be more and more hybrid, where you see different kinds of technology working together, some of them open, some of them proprietary. And it really jumped out at me. Last year was reading this blog by Google called Using GeoJSON and BigQuery for Geospatial Analytics. And they show this kind of interesting and compelling workflow. And I couldn't help but notice, but 4 of the components in this workflow were open source. In the upper left corner, GIS tools, QGIS. Translation, GDAL. The format for loading into data, GeoJSON. And then the engine is running Kubernetes, which is a container orchestration tool for cloud. And I think it's a good model of how you can mix and match with greater degrees of freedom. Another similar example, Google just announced new sustainability APIs for air quality, pollen, and solar APIs. And I started digging around, looking at it. My team is involved in selling Google Maps to businesses. So I was digging around in it, and a little bit to my surprise, this API actually delivers a data set back to you that includes a digital surface model and other analytic data. And in the fine print, it suggests you should use QGIS to explore the data that you pull out of the API. So these open source tools pop up in strange and unexpected places. And then we can't really deny that the open source community is different to some degree. I think, you know, the energy in a conference like this is different than the energy I felt like going to a General Electric conference. People are collaborative, people are interested. Some of the really strong developers are here and talking about what they've been doing. And so part of it is giving back to these communities. A lot of stuff is freely available, and people should be aware of it, but they should also support it to keep this ecosystem going and growing. Nobody likes people who only take things. So understand that. Be part of the community, and also be a good citizen and adhere to the licenses. And there are many, many ways to give back. You don't have to be a coder or a committer. You can contribute code, you can contribute documentation, you can contribute your time. Ryan and I are both on the program committee and volunteered non-trivial amounts of time to help this ecosystem. And of course, just like Wikipedia and other tools, you can contribute money. If you go to the QGIS website, there's a prominent support QGIS button, and they are generating donations and payments over time. So with final conclusions, it's okay to make money using FOSS4G technology. This ecosystem is alive and well and growing, with all of us supporting that by being here. There are several feasible business models. It's not one or the other, and there's probably more that I'm unaware of. The open source and commercial hybrid implementations are here to stay and remain important. And don't forget to give back and support these communities. Thank you.